We're joined online right now by another very special guest, Nikki Sterling. Her son, Dylan McGinnis, was killed in the great state of Indiana by a man who was released from jail because of the Bail Project. The Bail Project. This guy, Travis Long, allegedly killed her son, and I want to talk to her about all of this. The story is just heartbreaking. So, Nikki Sterling, thanks for joining us here on Breitbart News Saturday.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Okay, so tell us about what happened with your son, Dylan. He was 24 years old, aspiring electrician, and was tragically taken from you guys on October 1st, just a few months ago. What happened here?
Yeah, so he had been assisting a friend through a substance abuse issue and was essentially put in the middle of a situation that placed him with her and, Travis Lang, essentially shot my son, fired 9 gunshots into his car, 3 of which of those gunshots hit my son Dylan, 2 of them which were fatal.
Unbelievable. So this guy who allegedly killed your son, Travis Long, he was in jail apparently, right? Like, so he was in jail, and then this group called the Bail Project, which is like one of these funds that goes and bails people out of prison, got him out. So can you tell us about that? Like, because this wouldn't have ever happened had he been in jail.
Yeah, he would have never been allowed to be back on the streets. Travis Lang was in jail on 3 pending felonies, and I believe he had 1 existing felony on his record. So a total of 4 felonies, 3 pending. 1 was for resisting law enforcement, another one for the possession of narcotics, and a 3rd one for burglary. He was essentially bailed out on a $5,000 bond by a charitable organization called the Bail Project, which then, allowed him to get back out on the streets. Unfortunately, so I'm learning a little bit more about the Bail Project as, we go along. But, once they're released back out, once they're released on bond, there's no oversight of the offender once they're released by the Bail Project or any charitable bail organization. And there's no accountability back to the Bail Project on behalf of the offender.
It's really unbelievable. So this guy gets out of jail on bond because of the Bail Project, which, by the way, this is very similar to like the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was letting the rioters out in Minneapolis after the whole George Floyd situation. And there's other organizations like this around the country that spend millions and millions of dollars. They're funded by all these big-time leftist billionaires and so on and so forth. So when this guy gets out, he then engages in this incident, or allegedly, where he kills your son. Nikki, let me ask you this. I mean, did you ever think this would happen to you and your family?
No, not at all. When we were informed, on October 1st, we were just in complete shock. We didn't actually hear that he had been in jail on 3 pending felonies until about 3 weeks after the accident had happened. We actually received a phone call saying that he had been in jail and had been bailed out by the organization. So we were, just in complete shock on how these organizations are allowed to just go in and bail out whoever they want. So they indicate that their mission is to fight mass incarceration by bailing out low-income individuals. But many statements I've seen on television made by the organization and also the organization for the Minnesota Freedom Fund is that they don't actually look at the offender's criminal history before they bail them out of jail.
This is just unbelievable. So now, the state legislature in Indiana, which is your home state, I think you live in Arizona now with your husband, are working on legislation that would try to curtail these organizations from being able to do this. It's called Senate Bill 8. Senator Aaron Freeman is the guy leading the way on that in the state of Indiana. But you've I would imagine. Have you ever been like in this like political universe, like of having to deal with all these types of things before this? I mean, this upends your entire life, your family's life. I mean, your son was killed. But again, the we've never. You've probably never thought you'd be like on a radio show or talking to senators in the state legislature and so on and so forth. I mean, this is a whole new universe for you that you're just thrust into by the circumstances here. I mean, what's this like going through this?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I never thought in a million years that I would be this involved with local senators. I've even had conversations with U.S. Senator Braun on this as well. I've learned way more about bail bonds and the processes than I ever thought I would imagine. I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to, bring awareness to the situation and let others be aware that this is actually going on. I've met with several people who aren't even aware that this is how charitable bail organizations operate. I had the great opportunity to go and speak in front of the Senate committee on Tuesday, to testify on behalf of Senate Bill number 8.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. What is the thing that shocked you the most since you've learned all of this? I mean, it must be just unbelievable seeing that there's a whole political party. I mean, frankly, the Democrat Party, Kamala Harris was out there, the Vice President of the United States, Nikki, was out there pushing this whole Minnesota Freedom Fund, which is a very similar thing to this bail project in Indiana, amid the riots in the summer of 2020. I mean, when you find out that our political leaders are supporting things like this that then cause incidents like this, I mean, what goes through your mind? I mean, because the average person out there is going to be like, okay, well, I might disagree or I might agree with this politician or that politician, but surely nobody wants to let murderers out of jail. That's what they're doing. Like, I mean, it must be shocking to you. Like, I mean, this guy literally killed your son, and these organizations like this are being supported by some of the most powerful people in this country. I mean, what goes through your mind when you see that?
So I would have to say it's really disappointing to me to find out how these organizations are being funded. I also know that, in the state of Indiana or any state that the charitable bail organizations operate, they are using taxpayer dollars in the form of grants to support these organizations. So that's also really disappointing as well. But, for me, it doesn't really, it's impacted me. It hasn't impacted for me, it's less of a Republican, a Democrat, or a race issue. It personally impacted me. And honestly, I don't see that any changes. The charitable bail organization has spoken that they do not plan on changing any of their internal review processes. It's going to be business as usual. And, really until, a family, Kamala's family, or any of the celebrities' families are directly impacted by a violent offender who has been bailed out. And I can assure you, with the number of offenders that are being bailed out, not just in Indiana, but across the United States, that it will eventually hit home for somebody who is at the advisory board level.
It's really unbelievable to me. If you had a message to deliver, you've mentioned that you've talked to Senator Braun, and we've had Senator Braun on. We're huge fans of his. I think he's doing a lot of great work. But like, I don't know, in the off chance that Joe Biden's with it today and is listening to this program, or Kamala Harris, same thing, and they hear your message here, Nikki Sterling. What would you say to them? What would have? By the way, have they even called you? I know that they try to portray themselves as the controllers in chief, but I don't know if they even called you, and if you could talk to them, what would you say to them about this?
No, I haven't received any personal phone calls, and it was only up until I believe last week where the bail project actually expressed a condolence on, Dylan's family. I haven't received any phone calls from, Joe Biden or Kamala, but I do know that Joe Biden has unfortunately, lost a child, and it's one of the most it's one of the hardest things that an individual, or especially a parent and a mother, could ever go through. I just, I would think, take off your political shoes and put yourself into. They could never put themselves into the shoes that I'm in right now, but think, on a compassionate level for your child. Would you want the offender that is being released by any charitable bail organization? Would you want to invite them into your house for dinner to expose them to your children? Would you want your children to cross paths with them? I mean, those are some of the conversations I would probably have more on a personal level, from other aspects. It's completely shaken my world.
Yeah, unbelievable. What are some of what would be your advice to other parents out there who are maybe not aware of this or concerned about it? What do you think needs to happen with all of this? Like, this is just again, just learning this story. It really unbelievable. What do you think needs to happen here? How do we change this? This Senate Bill 8 seems like a good idea, but there's maybe other things out there that can be done too. What do we do here? What would you tell other parents across America?
Well, most recently, I've just been encouraging parents and anybody, that would be opposed to something like this to reach out to their state representatives and, let them know that you are not in support of a charitable bail organization bailing out violent offenders, that their history needs to be reviewed, that regulations need to be established around this, around these organizations. It's very sad. And, when you look at the increasing crime in Indiana, it increased 59%. And they were at their all-time high homicides in 2021. And you're starting to see that across the United States, in other states reaching their all-time high homicide rate. And my fear is that, one, I want to bring awareness of the charitable bail organizations. But secondly, my fear is that you're going to see more and more of these offenders get released and pushed back out into the streets before regulations can be established. So I would just encourage everybody to reach out to their state representatives right now and, let them know that they are not in support of their taxpayer dollars going to support a charitable bail organization.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Nikki Sterling, the last question I would ask you here is just tell us more about Dylan. Tell us what he was like as a person. It's so sad to see him gone at 24 years old. I mean, just unbelievable. But just tell us more about him. What was he like? What are we missing from this world because of these people?
So Dylan, he was such a vibrant young man. He really had a passion for his friends and his family. He was happy-go-lucky. He loved life. He was humble. He found joy in helping other people, whether it be his grandparents, his friends. It just really, he had a beautiful soul. And, I would almost say a little bit of an old soul, too. I mean, he had wisdom that most, 24-year-olds don't have, and it really doesn't come until you get older. It's a very, very sad and unfortunate situation. And like I said, that, our family, our entire family, not just myself, we're broken and we're shattered and we're just so upset with the situation and how it happened. And, our loss. I mean, he was just a beautiful person.
Absolutely unbelievable. Nikki Sterling, really want to thank you for joining us here. I'm so sorry for your loss and everything that you've had to go through. Is there any kind of an organization or a place where people can help you out, or anything that you've got that people can go to learn more about this stuff?
Actually, I don't have anything set up right now, but we are in the process of starting, building a website and kind of moving along in that area. Nothing's been decided or set in stone at this point, but it is something that we are currently thinking about putting into place.
Well, when you do have it together, let us know, and we'll have you back, and we'll talk about it again. I really want to thank you for joining us, and again, really sorry for your loss and everything you've had to go through. It's such a tragic story, but it's so important that we're talking about this issue. So really want to thank you for joining us.